Mpumalanga farm yesterday, and 25,000 birds will be culled. To tell us more, we're joined on the line by the South African Poultry Association CEO, Kevin Lovell. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Just give us an idea of which government departments you met with and what was discussed there.
Well, we had the Department of Health, the National Institute of Communicable Diseases, various people from the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, the association and some industry players as well. And we had a very long meeting as well, over 6 hours in total. Excuse me, and that's not bird flu. And we've actually dealt with a lot of issues, but there's a lot that's still outstanding. We're fairly close to resolving an agreement which will allow the sale of live birds to resume with certain conditions. There's a bit more homework to be done before we can finalize that, but it's a workable agreement from the perspective of both the industry and government if we get it all right. We've decided how we're going to approach determining the extent of the viral load in wild water birds in South Africa, and we're just finalizing our proper research protocol. And there's lots of that sort of stuff. We've looked at how we'll respond if there are further outbreaks. And I don't think this is the last such meeting, but that's the whole idea of working cooperatively. You deal with the issues as they come up.
You don't seem too alarmed. Does that lead us to believe that this current outbreak, with the second case coming up in Mpumalanga yesterday, is under control at this stage?
The actions of the companies involved, the two different companies, and of government, mean that we feel that it is likely that their outbreaks will stay on their farms. Because of the link to wild birds, which is still not 100% certain exactly all the backward linkage steps, that we cannot say the same for other farms. So we feel that the various parties that are working on these two farms are doing a pretty decent job, and that it's likely to those outbreaks will stay on those farms. I think all farmers need to be aware that there's a good chance that this virus is present in wild birds all over the country, although we will only know that for certain in a few more weeks.
Now, reports say some of our neighbouring countries have already banned poultry imports from South Africa. Can you confirm that, firstly, and how would this affect an already struggling industry?
Well, there's sort of three parts to the answer. The first is yes, it's normal practice to ban imports from countries that are affected by highly pathogenic avian influenza, unless that there are agreed compartments where there's a compartment that's registered in South Africa and accepted by, as a practical example, Namibia. So what happens now is Namibia has asked for the compartments that normally supply to them to give additional information to prove that they are free of the disease, and then trade will likely continue. So there's going to be a short interruption for a number of companies, perhaps a month or so. For those companies that don't have compartments, there could be a much longer interruption. Last year, we exported about 3.7% of our production. We're kind of halfway through the year, and we're likely to get some back. So I guess we're probably going to export realistically between 2 and 2.5% of our production this year, meaning a problem, but not a huge problem.
My next question then is probably null and void. If people are watching this and planning towards their Sunday chicken roast, do they have anything to worry about?
No, for a few reasons. And the first and most important one is this particular virus has been present in Europe for 2 years. And there have been over 1,600 wild bird cases and over 1,000 poultry cases. And no one's got sick. And the European Food Safety Agency has shown that this particular virus doesn't have the profile that makes it dangerous for humans. So that's your first thing. Even if you ended up having an egg or your Sunday roast with it, you'd be safe. The second one is if you cook food, you kill the virus. Virus is actually relatively easy to kill if you cook food properly. And the third one is that all the meat's been certified that it was safe, and there are fairly obvious signs of infection. So in the inspection system, if anything was strange during the slaughter process, it would have been picked up and remedial action would have been taken. The fourth thing is that it hasn't broken out in a broiler farm, and so there's no likelihood yet of it getting close to consumers.
Well, we'll leave it there. That was South African Poultry Association CEO Kevin Lovell. Thank you so much for joining.